What if I told you that the way you communicate right now is holding you back from the life you want? Whether it's in your relationships, your career, or even your own self-confidence, the words you choose and how you deliver them can either open doors or slam them shut. But here's the thing. Improving your communication skills isn't about learning fancy words or tricks. It's about mastering the art of connection. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Let's get real for a second. How many times have you walked away from a conversation thinking, I could have said that better? Or maybe you've been in a situation where you felt misunderstood, frustrated, or even ignored. It happens to all of us, but here's the good news. Communication is a skill, not a talent. That means it can be learned, practiced, and perfected. And by the end of this video, you'll have 8 powerful tips to transform the way you communicate, starting today. The problem is this. Most of us think we're better communicators than we actually are. We assume that because we can talk, we're automatically good at getting our point across. But communication isn't just about speaking. It's about listening, understanding, and connecting. And when we fail at any of those, it can lead to missed opportunities, broken relationships, and a lot of unnecessary stress. Think about it. How many arguments could have been avoided if someone had just listened better? How many job offers, promotions, or even friendships slipped away because the message wasn't clear? The truth is, poor communication costs us more than we realize. But the flip side is also true. When you learn to communicate effectively, you can change the trajectory of your life. So, let's dive into the 8 tips that will help you improve your communication skills and start seeing real results in your life. Tip number 1. Listen more than you speak. Let's start with something that sounds so simple, yet so many of us struggle with it. Listening. I mean, really listening. Not just waiting for your turn to talk, not just nodding along while you rehearse your next point in your head, but truly tuning in to what the other person is saying. This is where real communication begins. Here's the thing. Most of us think we're good listeners. But the truth is, we're not. We're often so focused on what we're going to say next that we miss half of what's being said. And when that happens, we're not really communicating. We're just talking at each other. Think about the last time you had a conversation where you felt truly heard. How did it feel? Probably pretty good, right? That's because being heard is one of the most basic human needs. It makes us feel valued, respected, and understood. And when you give that to someone else, you're not just improving your communication skills, you're building trust and connection. So, how do you become a better listener? It starts with intention. You have to make a conscious decision to listen. That means putting aside your own thoughts, your own agenda, and your own ego. It means being fully present in the moment, giving the other person your undivided attention. One way to do this is to practice active listening. This means not just hearing the words, but also paying attention to the tone, the body language, and the emotions behind the words. It means asking questions to clarify and show that you're engaged. It means resisting the urge to interrupt or jump in with your own story. Another key aspect of listening is empathy. This is the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes and see things from their perspective. It's not about agreeing with them, it's about understanding them. When you approach a conversation with empathy, you create a safe space for open and honest communication. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, but what if I'm in a situation where I need to get my point across? What if I'm in a meeting or a negotiation? Here's the thing. Listening doesn't mean you have to be passive. In fact, the better you listen, the more effective you'll be at getting your point across. When you truly understand where the other person is coming from, you can tailor your message in a way that resonates with them. And let's not forget the impact this has on your relationships. Whether it's with your partner, your friends, your coworkers, or even your kids, listening is the foundation of any strong relationship. It shows that you care, that you value their thoughts and feelings, and that you're willing to put in the effort to understand them. But here's the hard part. Listening takes practice. It's not something you can just decide to do and instantly get good at. It requires patience, self-awareness, and a willingness to put the other person first. It means being okay with silence, with pauses, with moments where you're not the one talking. And let's be honest, that's not always easy. We live in a world where everyone wants to be heard, where everyone has an opinion, where everyone is fighting for attention. But here's the secret. The person who listens is often the one who has the most power. Because when you listen, you learn. You gain insights, you build trust, and you create opportunities for deeper connection. So, the next time you're in a conversation, try this. Instead of thinking about what you're going to say next, focus on what the other person is saying. Really listen. Pay attention to their words, their tone, their body language. Ask questions. Show that you're engaged, and see how it changes the dynamic of the conversation. Because here's the truth. Communication isn't just about speaking. It's about connecting. And the first step to connecting is listening. Tip number 2, be clear and concise. Now let's talk about something that's just as important as listening, being clear and concise. This is about getting your message across in a way that's easy to understand and hard to misunderstand. Because let's face it, no one likes a rambler. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone just kept talking, and by the end, you had no idea what their point was? Maybe they were trying to explain something, but they got so caught up in the details that they lost sight of the big picture. Or maybe they were trying to make a point, but they buried it under so many words that it got lost. Here's the thing. Clarity is key. Whether you're giving a presentation, having a one-on-one conversation, or even sending an email, the clearer and more concise you are, the more effective you'll be. So, how do you do it? It starts with knowing what you want to say. Before you open your mouth or start typing, take a second to think about your main point. What's the one thing you want the other person to take away from this conversation? Once you have that, everything else should support that point. Next, keep it simple. This doesn't mean dumbing things down. It means making them easy to understand. Avoid jargon, buzzwords, and overly complex language. Use words that your audience will understand, and structure your message in a way that's logical and easy to follow. Another important aspect of being clear and concise is getting to the point. Don't beat around the bush or bury the lead. Start with your main point, then provide the details and context that support it. This not only makes your message clearer, but it also shows respect for the other person's time. Now I know what you're thinking. What if I have a lot to say? What if the topic is complex? Here's the thing. Being concise doesn't mean leaving out important information. It means being selective about what you include. Focus on the essentials and leave out anything that doesn't add value. And let's not forget the power of brevity. Some of the most impactful messages are the shortest ones. Think about some of the greatest speeches in history. They're often the ones that get straight to the point, because when you're clear and concise, your message has more impact. But here's the challenge. Being clear and concise takes effort. It's easy to ramble, to get caught up in the details, to lose sight of the big picture. That's why it's so important to practice. Whether you're preparing for a presentation, writing an email, or just having a conversation, take the time to think about your message and how you can deliver it in the clearest, most concise way possible. And here's the best part. When you're clear and concise, you not only make it easier for the other person to understand you, you also make it easier for them to trust you. Because when you're clear, you come across as confident, competent, and in control. So, the next time you're about to speak or write, ask yourself, what's my main point? How can I make it as clear and concise as possible? And how can I structure my message in a way that's easy to follow? Because here's the truth. Communication isn't just about what you say. It's about how you say it. And when you're clear and concise, you make sure your message doesn't just get heard, it gets understood. Tip number 3. Pay attention to your body language. Communication is an art, and like any art, it requires more than just the obvious tools. Words are powerful, but they are only a fraction of the story. Over 50% of communication is nonverbal. This means that your body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice often speak louder than the words you choose. If you're saying one thing but your body is saying another, people will notice. And when there's a disconnect between your words and your body language, trust erodes, confusion sets in, and your message loses its impact. Let's break this down. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone is presenting an idea. They say, "I'm really excited about this project," but their arms are crossed, their shoulders are slouched, and their voice is monotone. Do you believe them? Probably not. Their body language is betraying their words, and as a result, their message falls flat. This is why paying attention to your body language is so critical. It's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. So, how do you ensure your body language aligns with your message? Let's start with the basics. Eye contact. When you maintain eye contact, you signal confidence, attentiveness, and respect. It shows the other person that you're fully present in the conversation. On the other hand, avoiding eye contact can make you appear disinterested, insecure, or even dishonest. Of course, there's a balance. Staring too intensely can come across as aggressive. The key is to find a natural rhythm, making eye contact without overdoing it. Next, consider your posture. How you stand or sit sends a powerful message about your attitude and confidence. Slouching can make you seem disengaged or unsure of yourself, while standing or sitting up straight conveys confidence and authority. Think about it. When you see someone walk into a room with their shoulders back, head held high, and a purposeful stride, you immediately perceive them as someone who knows what they're doing. That's the power of posture. Gestures are another important aspect of body language. When used effectively, they can emphasize your points and make your communication more dynamic. For example, using your hands to illustrate a concept can help your audience visualize what you're saying. However, be mindful of overusing gestures or using them inappropriately. Fidgeting, tapping your fingers, or crossing your arms can signal nervousness or defensiveness, which can undermine your message. Your facial expressions also play a crucial role. A smile can make you appear approachable and friendly, while a furrowed brow might suggest concern or confusion. The key is to ensure your facial expressions match the tone of your message. If you're delivering good news, let your face reflect that positivity. If you're discussing a serious topic, your expression should convey the appropriate level of gravity. Tone of voice is another critical component of nonverbal communication. The way you say something can completely change its meaning. For instance, saying "I'm fine" with a cheerful tone conveys a very different message than saying it with a sarcastic or flat tone. Your voice can convey enthusiasm, empathy, authority, or uncertainty, so it's important to be intentional about how you use it. Now let's talk about the bigger picture. Why does body language matter so much? Because it's a reflection of your mindset. When you're confident, your body language naturally aligns with that confidence. When you're engaged, your gestures and expressions reflect that engagement. Conversely, when you're unsure or disinterested, your body language betrays you. This is why working on your body language isn't just about improving your communication. It's about cultivating the right mindset. So how do you improve your body language? Start by becoming more aware of it. Pay attention to how you stand, sit, and move during conversations. Record yourself speaking and watch the playback. Notice any habits that might be sending the wrong message and work on correcting them. Practice maintaining eye contact, standing tall, and using purposeful gestures. Over time, these small changes will become second nature. Another tip is to mirror the body language of the person you're speaking with. This doesn't mean copying their every move, but subtly matching their posture, gestures, and tone can create a sense of rapport and connection. It's a powerful way to build trust and make the other person feel understood. Finally, remember that body language is a two-way street. Just as you're paying attention to your own nonverbal cues, be mindful of the other person's body language as well. Are they leaning in, indicating interest, or are they crossing their arms, suggesting defensiveness? By tuning into these signals, you can adjust your approach and keep the conversation on track. In conclusion, body language is a vital part of communication. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it. By maintaining eye contact, standing tall, using purposeful gestures, and matching your facial expressions and tone to your message, you can ensure your body language aligns with your words. This not only makes your communication more effective, but also helps you build stronger connections with others. So, the next time you're in a conversation, remember, your body is speaking. Make sure it's saying the right things. Tip number 4, ask questions. Questions are the lifeblood of meaningful communication. They are the bridge that connects one mind to another, the tool that unlocks understanding, and the spark that ignites deeper conversations. Yet so often we underestimate their power. We ask surface-level questions, settle for yes or no answers, and miss out on the opportunity to truly connect. But when used effectively, questions can transform the way we communicate. Let's start with why questions are so important. First and foremost, they show that you're interested. When you ask someone a question, you're signaling that you value their thoughts, opinions, and experiences. This simple act can make the other person feel seen and heard, which is the foundation of any meaningful interaction. Think about it. How do you feel when someone asks you a thoughtful question? Chances are you feel appreciated and respected. Questions also keep the conversation flowing. Have you ever been in a conversation that felt like pulling teeth? Where every response was short and unenthusiastic, and the dialogue quickly fizzled out? That's what happens when questions are absent or poorly constructed. On the other hand, when you ask open-ended questions, you invite the other person to share more, to elaborate, and to engage. This creates a natural rhythm to the conversation, making it more enjoyable and productive for both parties. But not all questions are created equal. Yes or no questions, for example, have their place, but they rarely lead to deeper conversations. If you ask, "Did you have a good weekend?" the answer will likely be a simple yes or no. But if you ask, "What did you do over the weekend?" you open the door to a more detailed and engaging response. This is the power of open-ended questions. They encourage the other person to think, reflect, and share. Let's take another example. Imagine you're talking to a colleague about a project. You could ask, "Did the meeting go well?" And they might say, "Yeah, it was fine." But if you ask, "What were the key takeaways from the meeting?" you're likely to get a much more insightful response. This not only helps you understand their perspective, but also demonstrates that you're genuinely interested in their experience. Asking the right questions also helps you uncover valuable information. Whether you're in a business meeting, a job interview, or a casual conversation, questions can help you gather insights, identify challenges, and explore opportunities. For instance, if you're trying to understand a client's needs, asking, "What are your biggest pain points right now?" can reveal critical information that helps you tailor your approach. Similarly, if you're mentoring someone, asking, "What's one thing you'd like to improve?" can help them articulate their goals and challenges. Questions also have the power to challenge assumptions and broaden perspectives. When you ask someone, "Why do you think that?" or "Have you considered this alternative?" you're encouraging them to think critically and explore new ideas. This can lead to more innovative solutions, deeper understanding, and stronger relationships. It's a way of saying, "I value your opinion, but let's dig deeper and see what else we can uncover." Now let's talk about how to ask better questions. The first step is to be curious. Approach every conversation with a genuine desire to learn and understand. This mindset will naturally lead you to ask more thoughtful and engaging questions. Next, focus on open-ended questions that can't be answered with a simple yes or no. Instead of asking, "Do you like your job?" try, "What do you enjoy most about your job?" This invites the other person to share more and provides a richer response. Timing is also important. Pay attention to the flow of the conversation and ask questions that are relevant to the topic at hand. If someone is sharing a story, for example, you might ask, "How did that make you feel?" Or, "What did you learn from that experience?" This shows that you're actively listening and engaged in the conversation. Another tip is to avoid leading questions. These are questions that subtly guide the other person toward a particular answer, such as, "Don't you think this is a bad idea?" Instead, ask neutral questions that allow the other person to express their true thoughts, like, "What's your opinion on this idea?" This creates a more open and honest dialogue. Finally, don't underestimate the power of silence. After you ask a question, give the other person time to think and respond. Resist the urge to fill the silence with more words. Sometimes, the most profound insights come when we allow space for reflection. In conclusion, questions are one of the most powerful tools in communication. They show that you're interested, keep the conversation flowing, and help you understand the other person's perspective. By asking open-ended, thoughtful questions, you can create deeper connections, uncover valuable insights, and foster more meaningful conversations. So, the next time you're in a conversation, remember, the right question can open doors, spark ideas, and transform the way you communicate. Don't just talk, ask. Tip number 5, practice empathy. Empathy is one of the most powerful tools in communication, yet it's often overlooked or misunderstood. It's not about agreeing with someone or solving their problems. It's about understanding. It's about stepping into their world, seeing things through their eyes, and feeling what they feel. When you practice empathy, you create a connection that goes beyond words. You create a safe space where people feel heard, valued, and respected. And in that space, real communication and real growth can happen. Let's start by defining what empathy really is. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. It's not sympathy, which is feeling sorry for someone. It's not agreement, which is aligning with their perspective. It's simply the act of saying, "I see you, I hear you, I understand." This might sound simple, but it's incredibly profound. When someone feels understood, they're more likely to open up, share their thoughts, and engage in meaningful dialogue. So, why is empathy so important in communication? Because it builds trust. Think about it. When you're talking to someone who truly listens and tries to understand your perspective, how do you feel? You feel valued. You feel safe. You feel like you can be honest without fear of judgment. This is the foundation of any strong relationship, whether it's personal or professional. Without empathy, communication becomes transactional, a mere exchange of words. But with empathy, it becomes transformational. Now let's talk about how to practice empathy. The first step is to listen, really listen. This means putting aside your own thoughts, opinions, and judgments and focusing entirely on the other person. It's not about waiting for your turn to speak or formulating a response in your head. It's about being fully present in the moment. Pay attention to their words, their tone, their body language. What are they saying? How are they saying it? What emotions are they conveying? This level of attentiveness shows that you care, and it allows you to truly understand their perspective. The next step is to validate their feelings. Validation doesn't mean you agree with them. It simply means you acknowledge their emotions as real and valid. For example, if someone says, "I'm really stressed about this project," you might respond with, "That sounds really challenging. I can see why you'd feel that way." This simple act of validation can make a world of difference. It tells the other person that their feelings matter, and it creates a sense of connection and understanding. Another key aspect of empathy is asking thoughtful questions. When you ask questions, you show that you're genuinely interested in understanding the other person's experience. For example, instead of saying, "You'll be fine," you might ask, "What's been the hardest part of this situation for you?" This invites them to share more and helps you gain a deeper understanding of their perspective. It also shows that you're not just listening, you're actively engaging with their thoughts and feelings. Empathy also requires you to suspend judgment. It's easy to jump to conclusions or make assumptions about someone's situation, but empathy asks you to pause and consider their unique circumstances. For example, if a colleague misses a deadline, Your first instinct might be to think, they're so irresponsible. But empathy challenges you to ask, what might be going on in their life that led to this? This shift in perspective can completely change the way you approach the situation and the way you communicate with them. One of the most powerful ways to practice empathy is to share your own experiences when appropriate. This doesn't mean making the conversation about you. It means showing that you can relate to what they're going through. For example, if someone is struggling with a difficult decision, you might say, "I've been in a similar situation and I know how tough it can be." This creates a sense of solidarity and lets them know they're not alone. It's also important to recognize that empathy isn't always easy. There will be times when you don't agree with someone's perspective or when their emotions feel overwhelming. In those moments, it's okay to take a step back and remind yourself that empathy isn't about fixing the problem. It's about understanding it. You don't have to have all the answers or say the perfect thing. Sometimes the most empathetic thing you can do is simply be there and listen. Finally, remember that empathy is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. Start by paying attention to the people around you. Notice their emotions, their body language, their tone of voice. Practice active listening and validation in your everyday conversations. Over time, these small acts of empathy will become second nature, and you'll find that your communication becomes deeper, more meaningful, and more impactful. In conclusion, empathy is the key to creating meaningful connections and fostering open, honest communication. It's about listening, validating, and understanding, not agreeing or fixing. When you approach conversations with empathy, you create a safe space where people feel heard and valued. And in that space, real growth and transformation can happen. So, the next time you're in a conversation, remember, empathy isn't just a tool, it's a gift. Give it freely, and watch how it transforms your relationships and your communication. Tip number 6, be mindful of your tone. Words are powerful, but they're only part of the story. How you say something, your tone, can completely change the meaning of your message. Think about it. The phrase, "I'm fine," can convey contentment, frustration, or even anger, depending on how you say it. Your tone is like the music behind the lyrics. It sets the mood, conveys emotion, and shapes the way your message is received. That's why being mindful of your tone is so important, especially in difficult conversations. Let's start by exploring why tone matters. Tone is a reflection of your emotions and intentions. It's how you express your attitude and energy through your voice. When your tone aligns with your words, your message is clear and effective. But when there's a disconnect, confusion and tension can arise. For example, if you say, "Great job," with a sarcastic tone, the other person will likely feel criticized rather than praised. This is why tone is such a critical component of communication. It can either reinforce or undermine your words. So, how do you ensure your tone matches your message? The first step is self-awareness. Pay attention to how you sound when you speak. Are you coming across as calm and respectful? Or are you unintentionally conveying frustration or impatience? One way to gauge this is to record yourself during a conversation or presentation. Listen back and notice your tone. Does it align with the message you're trying to convey? If not, what adjustments can you make? Another key aspect of tone is pacing. How quickly or slowly you speak can influence how your message is received. Speaking too quickly can make you seem nervous or rushed, while speaking too slowly can come across as condescending or disengaged. Aim for a steady, natural pace that allows your words to land effectively. This is especially important in high-stakes conversations, where every word matters. Volume is another factor to consider. Speaking too loudly can come across as aggressive or domineering, while speaking too softly can make you seem unsure or timid. The goal is to find a balance, a volume that's clear and confident without being overpowering. This shows that you're in control of the conversation and that you respect the other person's space. Your tone also plays a crucial role in managing conflict. In difficult conversations, emotions can run high, and it's easy to let your tone reflect your frustration or anger. But this often escalates the situation rather than resolving it. Instead, Aim for a calm, steady tone, even if you're feeling upset. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means choosing to communicate in a way that fosters understanding and resolution. A calm tone can diffuse tension, keep the conversation productive, and show that you're committed to finding a solution. One effective technique for managing your tone is to pause before you speak. When you're in a heated conversation, it's easy to react impulsively and say something you regret. But taking a moment to breathe and collect your thoughts can help you respond more thoughtfully. This pause gives you the opportunity to choose your words and tone carefully, ensuring that your message is clear and constructive. It's also important to consider the context of the conversation. Different situations call for different tones. For example, a motivational speech might call for an energetic, enthusiastic tone, while a sensitive conversation might require a softer, more empathetic tone. Being mindful of the context helps you tailor your tone to the situation and the audience, making your communication more effective. Another tip is to practice active listening. When you truly listen to the other person, you're more likely to respond in a way that's thoughtful and appropriate. This includes matching your tone to the mood of the conversation. If the other person is speaking calmly, respond in kind. If they're expressing frustration, acknowledge their emotions with a tone that shows understanding and respect. Finally, remember that tone is a reflection of your mindset. If you approach a conversation with a positive, respectful attitude, your tone will naturally reflect that. But if you're feeling defensive or dismissive, your tone will likely convey those emotions as well. This is why it's so important to cultivate the right mindset before engaging in important conversations. Take a moment to center yourself, focus on your intentions, and remind yourself of the outcome you want to achieve. In conclusion, tone is a powerful tool in communication. It can reinforce your words, convey your emotions, and shape the way your message is received. By being mindful of your tone, whether it's pacing, volume, or emotional expression, you can ensure that your communication is clear, effective, and respectful. So, the next time you're in a conversation, remember, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Choose your tone wisely, and watch how it transforms your communication and your relationships. Tip number 7, adapt to your audience. One of the greatest skills in communication is adaptability. It's the ability to adjust, to shift, to recognize who you're speaking to and tailor your approach accordingly. Because here's the truth, not everyone communicates the same way. If you've ever had a conversation that just felt off, like you and the other person were speaking different languages, you know exactly what I mean. Maybe you were sharing a heartfelt story, but the other person just wanted cold, hard facts. Or maybe you were listing numbers and details, and they were waiting for something that felt real, something they could connect with emotionally. The message didn't land, not because it wasn't important, but because it wasn't delivered in the right way for them. See, communication isn't just about what you say, it's about how you say it. And more importantly, who you're saying it to. Some people like it straight. They want direct, no-nonsense communication. Others prefer a softer approach. Some people are logical thinkers. They love data, statistics, and analysis. Others are more emotional. They connect through stories and personal experiences. So, what's the key? Pay attention. Watch, listen, observe. What kind of language do they use? Do they light up when you tell a personal story? Or do they lean in when you present facts and figures? Are they fast talkers who get straight to the point? Or do they prefer a slower, more thoughtful conversation? Once you start noticing these things, you can adapt. And adapting doesn't mean changing who you are. It simply means meeting people where they are. Now let me tell you a story. Years ago, I met two business leaders on the same day. The first was sharp, precise, and analytical. I started our conversation with facts, numbers, and a well-reasoned argument. He was engaged, nodding, asking specific questions. It worked. Later that day, I met the second leader. I tried the same approach, facts, numbers, logic, but this time he seemed uninterested. His body language said, "This isn't connecting." I realized I needed to shift. So I changed course. I told a story. I made it personal. And suddenly he leaned in. He was engaged. The message was the same, but the delivery was different. That's adaptability. Some people are like the first leader. They want logic, they want details. Others are like the second leader. They want connection, they want meaning. The best communicators don't just talk their way. They talk in the way their audience needs to hear it. So the next time you're speaking with someone, ask yourself, what does this person respond to? How can I meet them where they are? Because when you do that, when you adjust, when you adapt, you don't just communicate, you connect. And that changes everything. Tip number 8, practice, practice, practice. Here's a truth that might surprise you. No one is born a great communicator. Not a single person. Every great speaker, every master of conversation, every person you admire for their ability to communicate with clarity and confidence, they all started somewhere. They all began as beginners. They all stumbled through awkward conversations. They all got it wrong before they got it right. But here's what separates the good from the great. They practiced. See, communication is a skill. And like any skill, it takes work. You wouldn't expect to pick up a guitar and play like a rock star on day one, right? You wouldn't expect to lift weights once and have muscles overnight. It doesn't work that way. Communication is the same. The more you practice, the better you get. But let's be honest, most people don't practice communication. They just do it. They go through life having conversations, giving presentations, writing emails, but they don't actively try to improve. They don't take time to reflect, to tweak, to get better. And that's why they stay stuck. But you're different. You can get better. And here's how. 1. Pay attention to what works and what doesn't start. Noticing your conversations. When did you feel like you connected with someone? What did you say? What was your tone, your body language? And when did a conversation not go well? What could you have done differently? Awareness is the first step to mastery. The moment you start noticing your communication, you'll start improving it. 2. Reflect after important conversations. Ever had a conversation that didn't go the way you wanted? Maybe you didn't express yourself clearly. Maybe you got nervous. Maybe you missed an opportunity to say something important. Instead of just moving on, take a moment. What could I have done better? Maybe you needed to pause before responding. Maybe you needed to ask more questions. Maybe you needed to listen more. Every conversation is a learning opportunity, if you're willing to learn from it. 3. Ask for feedback. Here's a simple but powerful question. How do I come across in conversations? Most people never ask, but those who do, those who seek feedback, improve faster. Ask a friend, a mentor, a colleague. What's one thing I could do to communicate better? You might be surprised at what you learn. Maybe you interrupt without realizing it. Maybe your tone sometimes sounds harsher than you intend. Maybe you rush through explanations. A small shift in awareness can lead to huge improvements. 4. Push yourself into more conversations. The best way to get better at communicating? Communicate more. Join discussions. Speak up in meetings. Have deeper conversations. Challenge yourself to start a conversation with someone new. The more you put yourself out there, the more comfortable you'll become. 5. Embrace mistakes. They're part of the process. You're going to mess up. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to have conversations that don't go well. And that's okay, because every mistake is a lesson. Every awkward conversation is a stepping stone. Every time you get it wrong, you're learning how to get it right. So don't wait until you're perfect to start practicing. Start now. Start messy. Start where you are. And over time, you'll get better. You'll get sharper. You'll get confident. Because communication isn't about being naturally gifted. It's about being deliberate. And those who practice, they don't just communicate. They influence. They inspire. They lead. So the question is, are you willing to put in the work? Because if you are, your ability to communicate will transform, not just how you speak, but how people listen. And that can change everything. Here's the thing about communication. It's not just about words, it's about connection. It's about understanding and being understood. And when you master that, you unlock a whole new level of relationships, opportunities, and personal growth. Think about the best communicators you know. What makes them so effective? It's not just what they say, it's how they make you feel. They listen, they empathize, they adapt. And that's what sets them apart. So let's recap the 8 tips to improve your communication skills. Listen more than you speak. Be clear and concise. Pay attention to your body language. Ask questions. Practice empathy. Be mindful of your tone. Adapt to your audience. Practice, practice, practice. These tips aren't just about becoming a better communicator. They're about becoming a better version of yourself. Because when you communicate effectively, you create opportunities, build stronger relationships, and live a more fulfilling life.